Welcome to the Land Investing Business Secret Podcast, where each short episode we talk about the strategies, experiences, and the tools to help you launch, grow, and scale your land business. Learn how to find freedom within your own business, find out ways to build consistency in your processes, and hear how other everyday land investors are winning so you can get to the next step closer to building your dream life through your land business. And I'm your host of the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast by Pebble, Jesse Kwong. Hey, how's it going? It's Jesse here from the Land Investing Business Secrets Podcast. I've got a return guest here, Scott Morongell. You probably haven't really heard much about him just because he lays so low and he is super active with his business and he's doing a lot of creative stuff. Some of that he shares on his show. In fact, it was sort of just an open discussion as to things he's seeing in the space because he's just so heavy into his land business. Anyways, I hope you're going to get tons of this. We do go through some specifics as well, including marketing. Enjoy this episode here with Scott. All right, welcome back, everybody. I've got a return guest, Scott Morongell. Man, I hope I pronounced it correctly, your last name. I always feel
spot on this time.
Okay, you just saying that, but I appreciate it. Nonetheless, Scott, wanted to bring you back on just because, I think generally you're trying a lot of different things. You're in the mix with a lot of people as well in land, and I thought I'd just kind of leave this as an open-ended podcast episode and sort of get you to give us a feel on things that you might be seeing in general, with marketing, with acquisitions, and even projects people are working. What's actually working out there? Let's kind of start with that, like an open-ended. Anything you noticed recently when it comes to let's maybe start on the offers and marketing side of things.
Yeah, well, first off, Jesse, thanks for having me back. I'm glad I didn't scare anybody away on the first go around. But I think there's a lot to unpack in there. And, there's a lot of things that will always work. There's a lot of things that will always be more frictionful, if that's a word. Like I said, the first time I was on here, mail has been our bread and butter. We've tried almost everything under the sun, if not all of it, other than maybe a select few weird ones. But mail is still working. I think your exit strategy needs to be pretty buttoned up in the sense of knowing certain builders, if they're for sure building and what their buy box is and if it has updated or not. And, kind of how much they're truly looking to buy inventory wise, because you're not going to be the only, wholesaler or land flipper, whatever, you kind of want to call yourself in this space that they're going to be buying from. And so I think trying to get a pulse of the market in the sense of niching down, because dollars right now are expensive on any marketing channel. You say mail goes up. I don't think it's that bad still, but I know a lot of the other stuff has gone up quite a bit. And getting the builders exact kind of specs from lot size and slopes and how much wetlands they can or can't bite off depending on what markets they're in, really kind of buttoning up your list to not waste anything if you don't have to. You guys do a great job with that, obviously, at Pebble, of putting multiple properties on one thing, et cetera. That's, a conversation for another day. But just to try and be wise of what you're spending from the marketing side of things is super important. But also knowing that you have somebody to dispo it to, right? So, I got a buddy of mine who does only larger acreage. Well, he knows where certain guys, whether it's agricultural or, whatever it is, they know exactly what they'll pay per acre between 100 and 150 or 150 and 500 and so on and so forth. And so they know exactly what numbers to back into. And then it's just a matter of how much can you bite off on your negotiation to see, if there's a deal to be had or not. But I think the days of kind of the spray and pray, because markets at all-time highs, in equities, but I think we're at almost all-time fear and standoffish still from the real estate side of things. New homes are selling for cheaper than older homes. Inventory, at least here in Charlotte, where I'm based out of, is through the roof. and a lot of bigger markets are through the roof. And so when stuff is kind of just sitting around, buyers can be super selective. And so you're like, why would you tell me this? It doesn't matter. It matters so much because they have to build a product. If most of your stuff is going to builders for infill lots, you have to be aware of like, okay, they're selling for, spec homes for 300 today. By the time they build it, market it, all their expense, like it might be a property in 3 or 4 months from now, if the market really gets ugly, that's worth 275. Now the flip side's also true because we're talking September 11th right now. The Fed is going to make a decision come next week. If they cut basis points and the market doesn't crash, buyers might get a little bit frothy again, and the house that builder thinks are going to sell for 300 might be worth 330 if they cut it, 0.5%, 1/4%, whatever their, kind of guidance is right now. We'll see come next week. But a lot of these things that investors or wholesalers, whatever, bucket you want to call this space, you never had to think about this or worry about it. And now I think you have to really be a thinker and get educated on where things are going, how to talk to sellers through this too is really important. Of like, hey, I know it was worth 40 back in the day. It's worth 28, and here's how we got to that number. Instead of everybody else, it's like, yeah, I could just offer you 28 with no context. It's like, hey, inventory sitting, we have a cost of capital, whether it's your partner or you're building yourself, all these things kind of help them get comfortable with why the number is not the number anymore. And then, even if they get one for a couple bucks more, $4,000 or $5,000 more, they might still end up going with you because you've given them context, you've built trust with them throughout the deal. And then you're not trying to, pull wool over builders' eyes or like, please just buy this one, we'll figure it out on the next one type situation. It's like you're giving them product that they can buy, that you don't have to beat them up on. They're not trying to beat you up on, just good quality product that everybody can transact on at the end of the day. But it starts with, I think, getting very fine and granular with like your either your mail piece or whatever list you're pulling, to know that you kind of have solutions on the back end. Because what we used to do too is like, I would buy something, put it on the MLS, and it would be gone in 2 days. Now if I do that, it might be gone in 6 months, or it may not go at all if it's not a great piece of land. So it's kind of it's a long answer, but there's so much context right now that matters more than ever to do this business well.
It almost seems like you really got to think about the entire cycle when you're doing that marketing. What is your exit strategy, and knowing your exit strategy really well. So when you're talking about your buy box, like I've seen this before on marketing where you guys are like getting super specific with your messaging on even just like why the offers, and like being upfront about the offers that are coming out and what you're going to be doing that with that property. Are you being as transparent as that when it comes to your messaging on your direct mailing pieces, or like how far are you going with that to make sure these people are fitting in your buy box?
So the messaging on our mailers, I don't believe is as important as just niching your data from the get-go to where like, hey, everybody in this, their speck of dirt is a potential deal. Now the messaging, I don't think, I know based on stats, it doesn't matter as much. That doesn't mean you can just be like, hey, I want to buy your land, like give me a shout. We've tried them all from like super long ones to the 2-pagers, with a blind offer on the second one. The ones that just went out is literally like one paragraph with like 3 bullet points underneath, because everybody kind of goes for like the most long, elaborate, letter. And nowadays, I think that going shorter, it's almost like if you get a text message and it's 4 pages long, your likelihood of reading all of it goes down. I feel like that's very much the same way with mail. When somebody opens it, they're like, I need to sit down and digest this. Same thing like with LinkedIn. I get so many messages on. If it's more than a paragraph, it just kind of like gets stuck. It's a someday maybe thing. So with mailers, it's like if you can get 2 or 3 sentences, basically less than a paragraph at most, and just like a couple very, very quick bullet points, and your mailer takes up less than half of a sheet, um, might do well for you. So what the messaging is not, in my opinion, is, and stats are not as important as just making sure we're getting in front of the right people. But I would say switch it up. Like, and inside Pebble, you can A/B test to the death, right? And so put pictures on there. Don't put pictures on. All of the above, test it out and see what works for you. And certain markets might be a little bit different, especially like age wise. If you can figure out how old people are in certain markets, they might respond a little bit differently. Maybe somebody younger likes the pictures on there. I don't know. We don't even go that far on that front, but I think just having the right people and shooting over and over is more important than like the perfect message. I would say make it somewhat unique, but don't get lost in the sauce on that front.
All right, so I do want to preface, I know Scott is talking about doing mailing, and a lot of people ask me, Jesse, is Pebble a mailing platform? No, it isn't. It's actually a full-on land platform to run your entire business for someone like Scott and all the partners that he's working with and other land people that he's working with as well. The platform has things like mailing built into it. It has things like a CRM. It has things like follow-up. When Kevin and I built this platform, this is meant to be your source of truth for your team and it's your source of creating processes. Ultimately, I think we've heard of this line, you want to work on the business and not in the business. And this is what the platform facilitates. If you've proven the land formula, if you've figured out how to get properties, and now you want to start replicating things, as Scott is going to talk about this in this episode, to hedge risk and just do and continue to move things forward and run off processes. I mean, you listen to Scott, everything is so regimented with what he is doing. This is what Pebble facilitates for, whether it is acquisitions, whether it is tracking your marketing, whether it is, tracking your inventory and what are you doing with that inventory? You're communicating with developers or hitting an automation to let, hey, so-and-so, I've got this property. It lays everything out in an email for them. You have everything laid out in front of you because the data all lives inside of Pebble. This is a platform solely built for land. It's not bolted on by different integrations and whatnot. In fact, I'm really excited as to what Pebble's becoming as a outcome-based platform as well. Using AI to drive results for you, to actually autonomously do things for you. We recently launched our intake agent, and it's really cool. You're not writing a crazy prompt. It keeps it so simple for Pebble to pick up the phone calls from leads and take that and take their information and transfer it over to somebody live on the team. These are the things that we're really interested in building, and we're super passionate. Anyways, if you want to learn more, just head over to pebblerei.com, hit book a demo. It's going to be with me, nobody else. I'm one of the co-founders here alongside my partner with Kevin. Anyways, enjoy the rest of this episode here with Scott. So you're getting really hyper-targeted with the people that you're sending out messaging to. Anything you're doing uniquely that you're finding works well when it comes to your list, how you're pulling it, what are you looking for? Is there a specific filter? Anything you're doing on the data front?
So everything right now and it's been this way for a while, but everything has been through the land portal. And I don't know if they're better or not than the next, to be honest with you. But what I do know is that I can sort off of put mins and max in for FEMAs, for wetlands. I can do road frontage. And then obviously you can do kind of the basic ones as everywhere else. But I like the making sure that there's enough road frontage is like one of the biggest ones to just save dollars on mail. And then we hit LLCs too. And so because with mail, you can obviously reach them for the most part, unless they have PO boxes that they never check. But I like to go under 10 properties owned, and that goes for an individual or an LLC. So I want, like, if they're a smaller shop, like if you're going for bigger ones, they don't show up. So you're not wasting, pulling excessive data on that front. But what we just talked about 5 minutes ago here is like, there's a lot of builders sweating and sitting on properties on market. And if they're smaller builders, they might be more apt to get rid of land right now. So stuff they bought even 2 years ago, they might end up moving. So I'm kind of looking at the other side of not just Johnny and Susie who've owned it for 45 years. I'm looking at like, hey, there's a potential that builders are getting squeezed right now, and something they bought 2 years ago could be a deal. And maybe they have some money, and so they'll break even or take a loss on it.
You are mostly working with developers or builders, sorry,
Hmm.
on the exit side of things, and I guess this is
Right now, yes. Back in the day, it was like I would say probably 40% builders, because we would buy everything and put it online, and it would go to retail. If somebody wanted to build their dream home, we're in all major markets. We're not doing stuff in the middle of nowhere for the most part. So a lot of people were scooping up land. Interest rates were low. They're like, yeah, we'll build our forever home here, and they would pay a premium. Nowadays, most of the stuff, if not all of it's going to go to some sort of builder, big or small.
and so having that and this is what I'm sort of seeing and hearing as well. And correct me if I'm wrong. That on the dispo side, now it's becoming a lot more fragmented, where people are sort of niching down into, maybe they're doing some entitlement on that property. They're subdividing. They're working with developers. They're working with builders. Is that the way you also see it as well? And is that sort of the future here? I mean, I certainly see the acquisition side of things is pretty standard. That
Hmm.
seems to be, you're still going to have to do some sort of marketing to acquire that property.
No doubt.
And then, so what is that, is that what you're also seeing on the exit side of things?
I think having a relationship with legitimate buyers is more important than ever. Even from before you put something under contract, if it's a builder that I've sold 5 deals to, 10 deals to, 100 deals to, um, sending it over to them, and we have that relationship of like, they know what our goals are. And so it's like, hey, I need pricing guidance on this one. I'm never in the business of retrading, and I'm never in the business of locking people up to get a number to then cut price. I know there's a lot of people that do it out there that way, business models of, uh, I wouldn't say it's unethical. Maybe it is. I mean, again, I don't want to get into the weeds there, but I want to have a legitimate reason to cancel a contract. If we miss something off of an easement that didn't show up right away, or power lines going through, or there's a dam built up, or there's a ton of trash on the property, or something like outside of like our true control or what a seller tells us, I'm never like, yeah, I'll give you 40, send it to a builder and be like, yeah, it's worth 38, and then go back for, I can buy it for 20. Like I don't do that, and I don't advise it. I don't think it's a good practice. I think that's a lot of the reasons why wholesaling or flipping altogether is under a lot of legal scrutiny right now. I believe North Carolina just passed laws, starting October 1st, I believe, of, um, because of all this craziness going on, you have to put very certain things on your contracts now that say like, hey, this is a direct to seller transaction. Seller can back out. I believe it's within like 14 or 30 days for any and all reasons. So they're really not even bound to it, because they assume that everybody is a wholesaler, or fall closer to a broker dealer without a license point of view. And so you can thank the people that have locked stuff up for 40, retraded for 20, for this type of stuff. And it's not just North Carolina. Georgia has their own stuff now, and a bunch of states are going nuts on this because it's not good practice at the end of the day. So to answer your real question, like, yes, having that relationship built, I think, is super important right now. And then you can even structure it to where, yeah, it's a direct to seller deal, but it's like direct to that buyer, and come out on a different side of the HUD at the end of the day, um, instead of an assignment fee or whatever you want to call it, to where you're kind of working for builders. Um, there's ways to be more professional than most, um, I think, currently transact in the marketplace.
Is that how you look at it? You almost look at it as if you were working for the builders?
To a degree. I mean, I'm not in business if they don't buy. Now, there's a certain point to where you don't want to be a slave, quote unquote, to a builder, to where like they just start taking advantage of you, and like you only have one buyer, and that buyer over time starts buying for 10% less and 15 and 20 and so on. It's good to have options, but I think where the market's at right now, having a few options of very reputable partnerships like with these builders is pretty paramount, especially if you're newer and you don't kind of know what you're getting into, instead of blowing deals up and leaving bad taste in sellers' mouth. All the litigation and rules and changes in the marketplace are not because builders are mad at wholesalers. They understand how the game works. It's the sellers who are getting left high and dry. And God forbid, like, the people that do this on the housing side, people are moving out of their homes and then figuring out that, hey, they're not going to close. I think that's a huge problem in this space. I would not feel good about it. I've never done it to somebody, but there are people that do it, and they're like, hey, I know that they're already starting to move out, and I need another 40 grand off. And again, a lot of the things that they're putting in place is good to get rid of bad actors in the space. It also makes people who do it well a little bit, our lives are a bit more difficult, just to make sure everything is above board. But yeah, to have builders on your side that you can get pricing for and collaborate with prior to going under contract, I think is helpful. Not everybody has that luxury. I understand that, but if you can get there with somebody, I think it helps.
And that's what I was about to ask. How close are they in that process with you? I mean, do you guys kind of operate? Do you almost feel it's almost like a partnership to a certain extent? And um, how are all your relationships with builders like that?
Not all of them, but a lot of them are, to where I've built trust with them, they've built trust with me, and they're desperate for good inventory to either get out of holes that they're in or to continue to grow. And so we understand each other's lanes very well. It does take time, I think, to build up a little bit of that trust, but I've never once had a builder snake a deal from me, ever, or try and, hey, let me just talk to them, I'll figure it out. The real builders are way too busy. They don't have time to waste doing this. So they're thankful for us bringing them opportunities.
You're in the space. You've got colleagues in the space, other investors you talk to. What's something interesting you've heard recently that you may want to start experimenting with? I know that you do a lot of experimenting. You seem to be always coming up with something new. I know we have a lot of discussions behind the scenes here, but is there anything that has piqued your interest recently?
So recently, no, and I say that because my investor hat is kind of sitting on the sidelines, in the sense of I don't really, the market I think is on a razor's edge thin. Do we just push through more of a bull cycle? Do we crash and have some sort of correction come? I don't know. I have my own opinions that maybe we're closer to some sort of correction, and stats in the marketplace of inventory online, new homes selling for less than older homes, all these kind of things, credit card debts all-time high, repossession of cars all-time high, mortgages are delinquent up to all-time high. So there's a lot of like friction on the top end that would just say like, hey, let's continue to push through for another bull run. So I'm personally sitting on the sidelines of experimentation and more of hedging risk. So like, and that's why I bring up, like, make sure you have builders that I can hedge risk. I don't want to buy a deal that I sit on. I don't want to experiment with marketing that I don't know if it works or that I'm not familiar with. So like, I would rather find more markets with infill lots that sell for kind of the price points that I target, to those types of builders and create relationships there, and then experiment into new markets with the exact same framework instead of saying, I'm going to be the guy that can move 200 or 500 acres all the time. That's not my strong suit. It's not my specialty. And so I'd rather double down on things that I know how it works really well instead of, shooting for the stars. Now, if you're a big game hunter in the space, you're probably going to try and find more big game opportunities instead of infill lots. Like, they don't know how infill lots work as much. So I think sticking to your lane right now and hedging risk and not getting caught with properties is probably smarter than ever before. Like back in the day, I mean, back in 2019, 2020, I could literally try anything and everything and buy any deal with a creek going through the middle and still make $25,000. Like it doesn't work that way anymore. It's the same thing with multifamily deals. You used to be able to, buy anything, screw it up royally, and still double your money on a deal. It's like these days are over. Cat's out of the bag. Everybody's looking for alternative assets, and so sellers are more sophisticated because a lot of people now do target land, and so I'm looking for more on the hedging side than experimental, hopeful growth strategies.
For somebody who wants to get into something similar to you, should they be sure they have a builder to work with before they put any properties under contract or get anything under contract? Like if they don't
I
know
don't. I would say no. I would also say no with the caveat of either hopefully you've either paid for coaching to where you have somebody that you can bounce that deal off of prior to locking it up, or another, wholesaler in your market or another flipper in your market or whatever they may be. Be like, hey, I got this one. Do these numbers look like it makes sense to kind of move forward before, presenting deals or even buying it to resell to a builder? Because it's very hard to get builders' attention and time on the phone if you're the same as everybody else. Like, hey, I'm new in this space. I don't know what I'm doing. What's your buy box? Can you look at this deal for me? Like, they don't really take you serious. But if you have something that they want, chances are you can get some more time out of them on a phone call, right? So, not to say there's some that won't give you some time and guidance and like, hey, I need this at this price. Like, sure, there are builders like that, but I wouldn't not take action because you're like, oh, I don't have 3 builders that I feel really good about. I don't think that's wise either.
I'm sure a lot of people are listening right now and just wondering, okay, you're trying to minimize risk at this point. What does deal flow look like for you? What give us numbers here. How much marketing are you sending out there? How many deals are you wrapping up on a monthly basis? What does that actually look like? If whatever you're comfortable sharing. I know I'm sort of putting you on the spot with that, Scott.
You're putting me on a spot because I wish I could be more transparent with my whole ecosystem. So if the cat's out of the bag, the cat's out of the bag. I say hedge risk. And I say relationship with builders. Maybe if you're newer, you don't spend your own money on marketing and you just partner up with one builder in 2 or 3 markets and do it as a service for them. Now, when we're cooking, and I feel really good about the market, what we were doing in the last, basically since 2019, 2020, was anywhere between 15 to 30,000 pieces of mail a month. And then we had sprinkled in some text messages and the cold calls. We never did like the RVM stuff, but those were the other 2 buckets that we would get deals from. They were great. But from a scalability, keeping a team small, like I told you on my last call, like if I can't do it from a laptop, it's very hard for me to get excited about that kind of business idea. And mailers are just insanely scalable. So when we were cooking, it was like 15 to 30, depending on the markets, the size of the deals, all that other fun stuff. Right now, it's substantially less because of the hedging and more of a service-based model, partnerships, and things of that nature.
Now, I'm sure, It sounds like you do have sort of a regiment that you go through to hedge that risk, and you everything sounds pretty processified with what you're doing right now. So, if people want to learn a little bit more from you, I know you recently launched something. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about this. Um, Pretty much your game plan or your blueprint as to what you're doing right now. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for Action Land Academy is what I created is me talking on camera for I think just over 15 hours from A to Z of this is deals, this is different types of deals, this is how you underwrite them, live call examples, um, all the contracts that you would ever need. I mean, you name it, marketing approaches to CRMs, blah 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 blah. That's all in there. I'm not really pushing it right now, but it's out there and readily available for people who want to be in the land space. There's a ton of programs out there. So really yeah, and I'm taking a lot of calls right now because I'm not cheap. And I will be the first one to say that. I think the core program without me in there is like 6 grand. The one-on-one plus that program I think is $20,000. But if you know my average deal size, most people would make that back in their first deal or two deals to break even, right? So if you don't have money, and you're going to spend all your money with me, I will turn you down because there's no sense in getting all the education and not being able to implement. So you do need some gunpowder to run with if you're going to do one-on-one program or like just buy the base. Like I said, it's not cheap. There's a lot of options out there. I don't know any of them and I can't speak on them. I've never been through them, but there are a lot. And YouTube University is a good start for a lot of people as well. So like you don't have to pay for anything to learn the business. If you have money and you want to accelerate the process, it's certainly a viable option because you're not going to waste your own time or money or cut your teeth, doing 15 different wrong things. So yeah, Action Land Academy is why I created it. I know it will help people. Again, you have to have money. I don't really waste time or play games. So if you have it, great, let's roll. But I'm not a charity event. Like I think if people don't pay for things, they don't do anything with it. There's some crazy stat. It's something like 80 to 90%. I don't know the rough number off the top of my head, but 80 to 90% of people who get something free never do anything with it. And so if you're going to pay $6,000 or $20,000 for something, there's like a 75 to 80% chance you do something with it. And that's really the whole point. I don't want people going through my stuff and being like, this is awesome, and then not do anything with it. If you're like searching for a new job or a new side hustle, land is great, but you have to put your money where your mouth is or to pay for somebody else's for however much they are, right? And so just try and get invested with money, and your time is a whole lot better than just your time. Because I've done a lot of searching and the fun free things out there. And I'm just like everybody else, come to think of it. I do nothing with it, right? It's like a someday maybe we'll figure it out. If somebody pays for it, like I know they're going to do something with it because now they're connected big time and they want to, you know, excel, get out of their job, whatever it is, right? So that's why I created it, but it's definitely not for everybody.
I will say, one of the great things I know about Scott is he's active in this space, and there aren't a lot of, there aren't like there are coaches and educators in the space who are also in the space, but there are a lot that are not actually active. I've actually been very transparent. I'm also not active in land, although I work very closely with land investors on a daily basis. But this is one of the things. Now, you mentioned, Scott, that you even have like phone calls on there and scripts. I know you've got that. So we're literally, are they getting sort of walked through a deal? Is that what I should expect in some of the videos?
So it walks through everything. I mean, there's an hour on how to set up the CRM. It's obviously yours based because that's what we use, and how to send the mail out through there. There's hours on how we pull the data out of the land portal. There's hours of data on what a deal looks like. There's live seller call examples in there. I don't have it up in front of me, but every single module, I think there's 15 to 18 of them, all have videos that go along with it, and templates and scripts and all that other fun stuff. So without the live calls, so I think you're seeing on there like every Tuesday, for an hour, you get part of like a group call. That may or may not change, but that's really for people who have questions on the week. So if they're coming within that hour and a half time period and they're like, hey, can you underwrite this deal? Can you help on this? Or I'm stuck in this area. That's really what that time is for. I'm not going to answer emails, to be honest with you. Like if, hey, I'm trouble setting this up, like, no, just hop on that call next week. Everything is so explained in there that there shouldn't be any questions, is the goal.
Would this be better for somebody that is like completely green to like land? Like when I started, I didn't even know what a county was. Is that what it's for? Or is this for somebody who's like,
It's for everybody. It has literally the most basic things. And we go through like, how do you find a county? What to look for? What's the migration coming in? What's average income? What's the for sale to sold ratio on 6 months, 9 months, 12 months? It has what's the average price point of that piece of land. Knowing what the average price point is super important. I'm a guy that typically hits the 20 to 25K deals, sometimes more, sometimes less. And so if I want to make that much, can I go into a market that average price point of land is 20,000? No shot, right? There, I might make 3 to 5 on those deals. But if I'm in a market that average price is between 50 and 75, there's a really good chance I get to that 20 to 30K range on, markup, so to speak. So we go through everything, for advanced to brand new people who have never heard of like land flipping. So I tried to cover everything, and that's why there's only one program, and it's extremely long, and somebody who's experienced is probably going to fall asleep through half of it. But I didn't want to create. I'm a huge proponent of, I don't want to create 4 different courses. So I don't want to create one that is subdivides and charge people. I don't want to create one for infill or for large acreage or, all these different I don't want like 9 courses up there. I want to give you one with all the different variables in there, and then you can figure out what you like. And that's why we cover mail, cold calls, texting, touch on the SEO, PPL leads, all that other fun stuff. I don't go into the weeds on those because I don't do them. So I give everybody like, this is what I do and this is what works for me. Here's some other options along the way. Go nuts. You'll, make it your own. But I didn't want it to be, and I did the research on the front end. I don't know what other people charge, but I saw a lot of courses, lots of options. And in my head, I'm thinking, man, if somebody like came to this website, they would have no idea what to pick. Do I do an accelerated program? Do I just want the subdivides? Do I just want, like, they don't know. They don't know what they want. They have no idea what it even is. So I'm like, here's everything, and it's enough to be dangerous. And then as you go, you're going to make it into your own sauce. You're going to find you might like subdivides more than I like infill lots or what have you. And that's fine. But yes, it's a one course, take it or leave it. I'm not giving you pieces of it. It's all or nothing for experience to newbies. Very simple process there.
I love it. Just one big platter. Here you go.
That's
you
it.
choose what you wanna eat out of this. Well,
Exactly right.
Scott, I appreciate you always keeping me in the loop of what you're doing. Even behind the scenes here, and a pleasure having you come on, share with what you're seeing, what's going on, and being transparent about some of the specific things that you're actually doing, including your marketing. I know a lot of people struggle on the marketing side of things, so I'm really happy that you shared that and kind of highlighted the importance of working with your buy box and whatnot. So listen, if you guys are interested, head over to actionlandacademy.com. Also, Scott, I don't know if you're always online, but if you guys have questions for Scott or have questions about Action Land Academy, this is going to be on YouTube, so you can always comment on there. And if I do see something, I'll ding Scott. If he's not always online checking things, I'll get him to answer on here as well. But Scott, thanks for coming on the show.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I try and check online, but the best way is probably through Instagram, to be honest.
Oh, yeah,
right. I do check those. So if people see something, That's probably your fastest answer if you want something.
Where are we going to find you on Instagram?
It should be just Scott Morongell. Should be pretty straightforward. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but
Okay, we'll just
there's no other Scott Morongell, so you will find it.
that's Morongell spelled Morongell, double L at the end. So we'll make
That's
sure to
right.
include that in the show notes. Scott, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, Jesse. Appreciate you.
Cheers. Before you stop this episode or hit the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast by Pebble. If you found this helpful, we'd greatly appreciate any awesome reviews and ratings on whichever platform you are listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast or the specific episode that may help them on their land investing journey. Once again, thanks so much for listening, and catch you on our next episode.